With Let Loow being completely free right now on the Epic Games Store, I figured this is the perfect time to make this video. I have been playing Let Loow for a few years now, and even to this day I am still learning new things about the game. In this video I will go over what every new player has to know regarding spawn points, capturing objectives, what are some of the best classes to play as, armor squads, recon squads, structures and much more. So without further ado, let's jump straight in. The very first things you need to know about are spawn points. There are 5 types of spawn points in Let Loow. At the beginning of any game you can only spawn in the team's headquarters, these 3 garrisons at the edge of the map. These will always be available unless the enemies are capturing the last point, in which case the closest garrison to that point will disappear and no longer be available to spawn on. Next we have player built garrisons. These garrisons are built by commanders and squad leaders, and they allow every player on your team to spawn on them. They can be built anywhere on friendly territory, costing you 50 supplies, and in the first 2 columns on enemy territory, costing you 100 supplies. Keep in mind that the minimum distance between 2 garrisons is 200 meters. Garrisons in enemy territory will become locked if an enemy is in a 100-meter range of the garrison, while those in friendly territory have a smaller lockdown radius of about 50 meters. You can build a garrison by pulling out your watch, hold right click, then select it by scrolling down with the middle button of your mouse. Enemy garrisons can be dismantled by getting close to them and holding the interact button, or by blowing them up with a rocket, tank shell or satchel charge. Then we have outposts. Similar to garrisons, outposts can only be built by officers. They are free, but they allow only your own squad to spawn on them. You can build an outpost the same way you would build a garrison, by pulling out your watch and holding right click. But you need to know that they are much weaker than a garrison. Outposts can be destroyed by simply walking close to them, or even by the explosion of a grenade. There are 2 more types of spawn points. The half track, which kind of works like a mobile spawn point, it turns into a garrison when the engine is shut off, and the airhead, which is a parachuted temporary garrison called in by the commander that lasts for 2 minutes if it's not destroyed by other players. Now, any player can drive the half track, but it is recommended that only the commander and the other squad leaders should do so. Never jump in a half track and start driving it around without the permission of the commander or of your own squad leader. Like I said earlier, garrisons win games, and taking them out is much more important than getting kills. To put it simply, killing another player only affects that player. Destroying a garrison affects the whole enemy team, and it increases your team's chances of winning the game. This is what makes Let Loow stand out so much from other classic shooters like Battlefield or Call of Duty. Being able to spawn and where you spawn is everything in this game, and once you figure this out, your whole experience will change for the better. Now let's talk about capturing objectives, because this again is not as simple as you may think. Each map has a total of 15 objectives. 5 of them get picked at random when the server switches maps, so you get different strong points or objectives each time you play. There are 2 main game modes in Let Loow. Well, there are 3 if we include skirmish, but who the hell plays that shit? Warfare and Offensive. In Warfare mode, the capture area is made up of the 4 squares the point is located in. If you are asking, well, how do I know which 4 squares are the capture sectors? Well, you simply start at the edge of the map and you go like this: 2 by 2, 2 by 2, 2 by 2, and so on. Whatever 4 squares the strong point is in, that's the capture area. Capture rate is constant. There is no speeding or slowing down how fast you can capture in this game. It takes 2 minutes to capture an area in Warfare mode and 1 minute to capture it in Offensive mode. Which team makes progress towards capturing depends exclusively on what team has more players within the capture area. Being inside a strong point in warfare mode multiplies your cap weight by 2. So if one team has one player inside a circle and the other has 2 outside, then no progress will be made. Don't be fooled by thinking you can hold a point by just defending the black circle, because you can't. You have to defend all of the 4 sectors of that point. If your team only defends the black circle, you are more likely to get surrounded and quickly overrun by the enemy team. Offensive game mode is more straightforward. One team has to defend all of their points and the other has to capture them one by one in order to win. In this game mode you can only capture the other's team point by standing in the black circle. Honestly, this is my favorite game mode because, as you can imagine, battles are a lot more chaotic. The attacking team gets 30 minutes to capture each objective, and if they fail to do so, they lose and the defending team wins. Before we get into squad roles, first I want to talk about the most important part of the game: communication. I would recommend playing this game with a headset and a microphone if you can. A headset is absolutely vital to identify where shots are coming from and to listen to enemy footsteps. A microphone is even more important because being able to talk to other players is often one of the most valuable things you can do in the game. Letting someone know that hey, there are enemies coming from the north, or there are enemies behind us, or asking for supplies or ammo will enhance your experience in the game significantly. There are 3 separate voice chats: proximity voice chat, squad chat and command chat. On PC they correspond to your V, C and X keys. Squad and command chat will work at any distance, while proximity chat will of course only be heard by teammates around you. The enemy can't listen to any of these channels. If you are a shy person, honestly get over it and talk. In command chat I would recommend not talking too much and keeping your communication down to the absolutely most crucial information. So things like calling out enemy tanks, garrisons, airheads, supply drops and so on. Just as important as voice comms are the map markers and pings. As a soldier you can ping with your middle mouse button, and that creates a temporary alert that only gets seen by your squad. It's really useful for pointing out where enemies are or by referencing different things. Officers can use a wide variety of different markers by either holding down the middle mouse button or by right-clicking on the map. There will be an indication of who can actually see the marker for each of these. For example, the place garrison mark can only be seen by other officers, and the request supplies mark can only be seen by your squad. If you are a new player, I would advise you not to use the commander role at first, because in my opinion this is the most difficult role to master. The role of the commander is to provide opportunities for his team by providing them with garrison, tanks, half-tracks, airheads and so on, through the use of his abilities like bombing runs and recon planes. Let's get back to what you should focus on: squads. There are 3 types of squads in Let Loow: infantry, armor and recon. The infantry squad is made up of 9 roles. As you keep playing each role you will level up, and as you level up you will unlock new and better loadouts for that role. The first role is of course the squad leader role that we already talked about. The second one is the basic rifleman role. Riflemen get the standard army rifle, the M1 Garand for the Americans, the Kar 98 for the Germans and so on, as well as a couple of grenades and the ammunition box. Those boxes are placed on the ground and are used to replenish ammo. There are also explosive ammo boxes which you will unlock as you level up, and they replenish grenades, rockets and mines. The M1 Garand is honestly one of the best weapons the Americans have, so don't be afraid to take it over the automatic weapons. The assault is one of the best classes in the game. The first loadouts are pretty decent, but later you get access to a satchel which can be used to blow up tanks or defensive structures, as well as a grenadier kit that gets a ton of smoke grenades and frag grenades, really useful when it comes to assaulting enemy positions. The automatic rifleman is honestly a downgrade from the assault class. Besides an automatic weapon you don't get much else, and in my opinion it is pretty useless, unless you are on the German side and want to play with the STG, which I believe believe is one of the best weapons in the game. The medic role, I'm sure you guessed it, can revive people by injecting them with morphine and healing them with a bandage. It is best used in offensive game modes when there's a bunch of people gathered inside a small area. I would not recommend using this class in other scenarios because 1. Usually after dying people immediately respawn, and 2. There are no tickets in this game, so your team is not punished if you respawn over and over again. The support role, on the other hand, is one of the most important classes in the game. Support players carry supply boxes, which are necessary to build garrisons, AT guns or other structures such as repair stations, walls and so on. The last support loadout includes one of the worst weapons in the game, the flamethrower. It looks cool, but it only kills people up to 25 meters and it takes a while to be able to shoot it because you need to kind of brace it. So if you want a better weapon for the support role, I would recommend sticking to the second loadout. The machine gunner is a pretty straightforward class. Stay as far away as possible and use lots of suppression. The closer you are to enemies, the higher are the chances of getting a bullet to the head. This is a class that requires awareness of enemy movement and is better for defending than attacking. The anti-tank class is one of the best classes whether you are attacking or defending. What you need to know is that the German Panzerschreck is significantly more powerful than the Allied bazooka. The German Panzerschreck can penetrate every tank from all sides except for heavy tanks from the front, while the Allied bazooka can't hit anything heavier than a medium from neither the front or the sides. The anti-tank class comes with 3 loadouts. You can opt for a bazooka, a buildable AT gun which is excellent as you can penetrate any tank from any side, and a satchel charge. Lastly, we have my favorite role, the engineer. This role is mostly used to build resource nodes or defensive structures, but this role can also get access to another loadout that has a satchel, which again is extremely useful. I find the engineer role used best in offensive game modes because of his ability to build defenses such as barbed wire, bunkers and walls. Armor squads are fairly basic in composition. They have a maximum of 3 players, 1 officer and 2 crew members. This is the only officer in the game that doesn't get an outpost and can build garrisons. Tanks have 3 positions, a driver, a gunner and a spotter. The driver controls the tank using the WASD keys, but first you have to turn on the engine by holding down E, and you'll also need to switch gears manually by using shift and control. Gunners control the turret using WASD and can select between HE and AP rounds, sometimes even smoke rounds. Spotters do exactly what you would think. They call out targets for the gunner and mark enemy tanks. Tanking in Let Loow requires a lot of coordination and having good knowledge about the weak points and strong points of other tanks. Recon squads are made of 2 people, an officer and a sniper. Unfortunately, they are mainly used to counter enemy artillery, but when enemy artillery is not firing, their main purpose is to find and destroy enemy garrisons located inside enemy territory and do as much damage behind enemy lines as they can. Alright, those are all the squad types in the game. Now let's talk a little bit about structures. The engineer can build defensive structures like barbed wire, bunkers, walls and so on, but the most useful structure that you can build are resource nodes. Nodes provide 10 points of the corresponding resource per minute to the commander. There are 3 types of nodes: munition, fuel and manpower. The commander uses those resources to spawn in tanks, bombing runs, strafing runs and so on. Munitions are also spent when artillery is firing or when using an AT gun. Nodes should be built as close to HQ as possible and far away from capture points so that enemy recon squads or infantry squads have a much smaller chance of finding them. Warning, you will die a lot in this game in your first few hours of playing it, and I want to give you some general tips. Don't get mad when you die, move slow, pay attention to sound and everything surrounding you, check your map a lot. If you are in a squad with high level players, don't hesitate to ask them questions, the community is great. Right now the quality of games is not that great because there are a lot of new players, but hopefully with videos like this one things will improve in a few days. And at the end of the day, just have fun. If you have any more questions about the game, please feel free to ask them in the comment section down below. I will answer all of them.